Woo.
Huh?
Woo.
What?
Woo. All right, what's up, everybody? That was probably looping because I had the stream thing on, so apologies if that music was looping. I had to go grab a drink real quick. So, it is time. Multi will be joining us here in a little bit. It is his son's first birthday.
First birthday.
So, happy birthday, little baby Zord. We hope it's a happy birthday. Guys, we didn't kill Multi, so I guess a lot of you probably haven't met Mr. Alpaca Zord Jennington.
It's true. He fills in.
Yes, he does fill in.
Whenever there's, Zord goneness.
Whenever the need arises. So he's a great guest. He doesn't even need to speak. He just has a powerful presence. And he's always right. Go listen. We're 190 episodes in now. You'll never find a time he's wrong.
It's true.
So, but yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started here. I should probably open up my sounder. My soundboard.
Ooh. Soundboard.
You know, the thing that...
Sounds fancy.
It is pretty fancy, if I'm being honest.
It's pretty exciting. We got lots. We got some BlizzCon stuff. We have a dev interview video we're gonna play.
What?
So that's pretty cool.
I had no idea.
We're gonna talk about lots of stuff. Orphea is awesome.
Yes, and then we may get some games in after. We'll see. We'll see how we're feeling. But yeah, let's go ahead and kick things off with episode 190. This episode of Lords of the Storm is brought to you by our sponsors over at Patreon, where you, yes you, can also support the show. Just head over to patreon.com/Lords of the Storm to become a patron today.
This podcast is a production of HeroesHearth Entertainment. Check out all of our other shows at HeroesHearth.com. Welcome, Hearthlings.
Heroes, gather tribute and earn my favor. Say, are you ready to begin?
What is up, everybody? And I just gotta say at the top now, our intro, our sounder now, the laugh, it just has so much more meaning.
It's true.
It has so much more meaning. It's like we predicted that the Raven Lord and his daughter was going to be the first.
It'd be a big deal.
Yeah, we totally predicted it. But
way back in the day.
Way back.
Way back.
I don't know when we switched to that sounder. It was a while ago. But what's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 190 of Lords of the Storm, a Heroes of the Storm podcast. My name is Greg Gizmozord Parker, and I am joined tonight, of course, by the Zord Lords themselves, Mr. Ryan TBKZord Reader, and currently Mr. Alpaca Zord Jennington making his reappearance, his first time as part of the HeroesHearth Entertainment family. So give him a warm round of applause here. But he's just filling in till Multizord joins us later on in the night. But we got a lot to talk about this episode. So we are back from BlizzCon and Orphea's Bay. It's really all you need to know. I mean, that's all we could talk about, but we do have other stuff to talk about. We're going to be covering some of our thoughts on the rest of the show, as well as stuff coming up in the Nexus. We'll be playing our interview with lead hero designer Matt Villers and lead animator Karina Kingdom, as well as to get to some juicy listener questions. But before we do that, TBK, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing really good, other than the murky game I played right before the show, where my team was less than helpful.
Why would you do that?
Why wouldn't I do that, I think is the question you should be asking.
I mean, yeah, that's fair enough. I don't know how long it's been since I've played murky. But it's been a long time.
You know how you've got a hero everyone's got a hero that whenever they're feeling like it's been a bad day or it's been rough or you want to just get wins in that you just play. Murky's that for me.
I thought that was Twin Blade for you. That's Twin Blade for a lot of people.
It is Twin Blade for a lot of people, and I do love me some Twin Blade. But I enjoy playing Twin Blade more with other people. Like Murky's my like throw on some music, solo queue type thing. I've actually got like 70-something% win rate with him. Super high.
Okay. It's like my Phoenix then. Which, by the way, I've gotten back. I haven't really played Phoenix much since last season, I guess, whenever I had like a 68% win rate with him over like 70 or 80 games that season, which is pretty dope. But I've got back into him, and I'm still, man, the Q build just works. He's not, the solo lane god that he is with the other builds, but I've been having a great time with him. Haven't gotten a chance to play very much or hop in the PTR since BlizzCon to check out our little Miss Orphea anymore, getting caught back up on work and stuff, but looking forward to doing that this week. But of course, we got to play her quite a bit at BlizzCon, but we got a lot to talk about, so we'll go ahead and jump into that stuff in the news. So, of course, BlizzCon this last weekend, it went by really fast this year. Like,
it really did.
Really fast. So
my feet tell me otherwise, though.
Yeah, no kidding. So when I got back, I had Monday off of work. I did not get out of bed except to like eat and do laundry and clean dishes for a little bit. And then I woke up Tuesday to go to work, and my body, that's when it hit me. I just felt like I was hit by a truck. So
yep, it takes a lot out of you. And I'm not going to say regrettably because I super enjoyed it. I did Disney on Sunday.
Okay.
And so I subjected myself to another 8 hours walking. And for those of you that it's like your first BlizzCon or haven't gone to BlizzCon before, a lot of the BlizzCon people will end up going over to Disney on Sunday. If you're still around, it's just kind of a big tradition, and it's like Dapper Day usually. So you'll have all these people that are dressed up in old school stuff. It's nice, but I did California Adventure this time. I got to ride a lot of stuff I haven't ridden before. It was good, and then I wanted to just fall down and die at the end of the day because I had walked another 8 hours after BlizzCon's stuff. It was rough. I have not caught any con crud yet, though. Fingers crossed. So
I thought you had gotten it when we were there because as
I was getting over a cold.
Okay.
So I got my con crud pre-con.
So you were ground zero this year then. You're the guy that went to BlizzCon sick and got everyone else sick. That was me last year. It's okay, it happens. I mean,
it's one of those things. I did really well. I washed my hands. I made sure to like not cough in anybody's face. So
okay, fair enough.
I did my part.
Yeah, so BlizzCon was absolutely incredible. A big thank you to everyone who came to meet up with us, to take pictures, hit us up in our Discord and Twitter to find out where we were. There were a lot more of you this year, and it was super cool and a big pleasure to meet each and every one of you. So we appreciate that, and we hope to see even more of you and those of you returning to BlizzCon next year. Because
I know it's kind of a tradition now. This was actually my third one.
Yeah,
it's starting to become a theme.
It was my fifth, and I couldn't believe it. One thing I did notice about this year, about it being my fifth, is one, I'm bad at taking pictures anyways, but it was even more so this year because really for the most part, yeah, there's new like demo areas that are set up and designed differently, but I've taken pictures of the same thing so many times this year. So it was actually nice. I could I take a picture of the new Jaina statue, of course take a picture with
which was
people.
Amazing.
It was really good. So yeah, I was going through my pictures to like make an album, and it's like, I mean, there really aren't that many, so I don't have to make an album. I can just post them. But if you guys did go to BlizzCon, if it was your first BlizzCon, anything like that, we'd be excited to hear your thoughts on what you thought. Because I would say 90% of the time when somebody goes to BlizzCon for the first time, you're going every year now. You're sucked into it. You can't escape it. It's just like WoW. People who leave WoW may leave WoW for a little bit, but they always come back. The Zords especially.
I will also put in another plug. Blizzard, please make BlizzCon 3 days. It's overwhelming enough, but there's so much stuff I feel like I missed out on, and I was doing stuff constantly. Like, especially with the esports and stuff, I missed so many of the panels live, and yes, you can go back and watch the virtual ticket and stuff. It's not quite the same. I really wish it was 3 days and stuff was just spread out a little more to allow you to get to a few more of the panels.
Yeah, we say that, but also realize how tired we were after 2 days, and I can't even imagine the people that are like working it. Like, that's a lot of work. I mean, I would be totally down for a 3-day BlizzCon.
I feel bad for saying that because I know how hard most of the Blizzard people work to put on that show. But then the other side of me, that is the super selfish side, says I need more BlizzCon.
It's true.
Give me more BlizzCon.
We should just do it like, quarterly. Right?
I don't think I could afford that.
No, I don't think anyone could. But, we could still go to one of those.
Sounds like a horrible idea.
But it'll be interesting to see if it ever gets to that point. If they release any more new IPs in the future. Warcraft 3 possibly sounds like maybe starting more esports.
Yeah, if they start adding more esports, if they release any new IP, they're either going to have to go to 3 days or they're going to have to start splitting off some of these esports finals. And we'll actually talk about that a little bit when we get to our HGC section. But we are very much capacity as far as saturation for BlizzCon.
Yeah, it's true. Real quick before we get any deeper in on some of the BlizzCon stuff, next week we are going to be doing a discussion on brawls that are in the game. So
what are brawls?
Yeah, admittedly I still do them occasionally, mostly during events to get a chest. But it's a shame because there's several brawls that I like and I think are fun, but I just forget to even check to see what's going on. Like, unless it's by accident. So, we'd love to get your guys' feedback on the brawls and stuff. We will be posting that as question of the week over on our HeroesHearth page. You can email us, you can tweet us, write us in Discord. Just what your opinions are, what you would like to see from them maybe. Whether that's more PvE content or who knows. Different rewards. I don't know. Also, coming up here in the very near future, and by the very near future, I mean tomorrow, the Heroes team is going to be doing a post-BlizzCon AMA. And again, they
do not stop.
No. This is actually...
Good grief.
This is really cool that they're doing this. So, it's going to be Thursday, November 8th, which is tomorrow for those listening live. If you're listening to the podcast, potentially this has already happened. But they will be joining the thread to answer questions from 10 a.m. Pacific to 12 p.m. Pacific. And this is really because there wasn't much chance for any Q&A along the Heroes stuff at BlizzCon. So they're opening it up. What questions we got? Questions over the experience changes, questions over boosts, questions over Orphea. So there will be KO Milker, Matt Cooper, Kevin Johnson, Joe Pipiora, Kyle Dates, Lana Baczynski, and Alex Naiman. So good stuff there. TBK, you going to be posting any questions this time?
I've been kind of thinking about it because I've got a bunch of stuff rolling around in my head, but by the time I see it, I usually see somebody else who's posted that thing. So I just now normally just go through and upvote the things. I talked to a bunch of the devs at BlizzCon, and I actually asked several of them this last year. So I'm campaigning for this now. I want to see a little KT skin, little Kel'Thuzad. We've got our little Ragnaros. Kel'Thuzad needs a skin. I want to see a little KT skin. And so I'm trying to get this out as much as possible. Please give me a little KT skin.
I could get down with a little KT skin or some more Ragnaros skins. But a question I have, which I'm actually little sad I forgot about and didn't get to just even bring up to any of the devs I was talking to, or get asked at any AMA or anything, but custom games, single lane maps. Please bring back the ability to draft on those.
I know. I was talking about that earlier in a little thread.
Yeah, and that's what reminded me of it. So
it's true. It's just custom games in general. I would love to see more customization.
Yeah, or being able to choose an actual ARAM versus that 3 hero slot machine type thing. But that's always just been a weird thing to me, because whenever those maps first came out, like, you could do it, and then it was just taken away. It was just taken away from us.
Yeah, whenever they switched to the new format.
Yeah, so I don't know. But I won't post that in tomorrow's AMA because it's all about BlizzCon, but maybe in one that's coming in the future. We'll have to see.
There's a system designer in there.
There is, but I don't. There's going to be plenty of questions that have to do with stuff they touched on at BlizzCon, so maybe we'll see. I will be, I won't be in at work yet for this, so you might talk me into it, possibly. BlizzCon updates. So we talked a little bit about this stuff last week. We didn't go too in-depth on anything, so we may rehash some stuff here, but we're going to try not to, and try and just have some other better discussion on it, because our Friday mini-sode was mainly just a recap. But obviously the big thing to come out of this stuff is the experience changes. And I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you care enough about Heroes to have heard about these changes, and you've probably heard good things. You've probably heard bad things. And the consensus currently seems to be that this is going to be good on the overall player base and potentially harmful to the competitive scene. But we're going to have to wait and see with some testing. We talked about it in the interview. They've been testing this stuff for a while, and it's stuff you can make tweaks here and there. So we'll really just have to see once it goes live and they get some good data from it. But of course, those changes are, as far as structures, they removed experience from destroying forts and keeps. They decreased experience from towers by 50%. Passive experience gained increased by 15%. And then increased experience gained by defeating defending mercenaries by 100%. And defeating laning mercenaries will now grant 100% of defending mercenaries experience. That's the only change I'm not sure how I feel about, is giving experience for defeating a attacking minion wave in camp, or a mercenary wave. Doesn't that seem to defeat the purpose of the experience from capturing it?
Maybe.
I mean, you can still miss that by it dying to a structure or something, but I don't know.
It gives a lot more incentive to push with and or defend them.
Yeah, definitely to defend. So we'll see there.
It's really interesting because the biggest thing these changes are centered on is, in normal play, the 99% of people that play the game, they're trying to adjust these wide level gaps that are a little too common, 2, 3, sometimes 4 level gaps, and tighten those up a little bit so that, one, you have a chance, and 2, if you get in that situation for some reason, you have a chance to come back. They've said it feels better. It still allows for you to get a level or 2 lead, but you very rarely will be seeing these large level leads. And it's really interesting because Hopefully they'll find a happy medium, and you always want to shoot for the happy medium. But it's interesting to see whether they will err on the side of normal players' experience. Like here's our normal player base, and trying to get their experience tightened up a little bit, or if they will err on the side of HGC players have played this, and it is hypothetically removing a lot of macro play or something, or making games last too long or something like that. And if they'll then kind of take that feedback over the general experience.
Yeah, and it'll
be really interesting to see, because you always want to find that happy balance, but it's possible you might not be able to, and continue to keep certain strategic high-level plays available. And of course, these aren't out yet. These aren't on the PTR yet. They are coming, I believe, in the next PTR after Orphea. And so I guess the biggest thing is, please everyone jump in and test the crap out of these things so that we can get good feedback, because this is a huge change, probably akin to the ammo removal and regen globe changes.
And I do want to say, like, I love the fact that they do these gameplay updates each year. And I think it's something they should continue to do. Obviously, this time around, it's really them trying to fix that whole snowball issue, trying to reduce the effects of that. But even if there's not anything wrong balance-wise, I think tweaks like this are good just to keep gameplay fresh. League makes updates between each season, sometimes on maps, sometimes not. You don't need to do it in Heroes as much because we do have different maps to play. But overall, like, little tweaks like this, I really think are neat. So, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. The other thing that goes along with this, though, of course, were the catapult changes, to where now whenever you destroy a fort, every third wave will have that catapult that pushes with it, which of course can do some interesting things with timing of split pushing, things like that. And then, of course, getting a catapult with every wave once you get a keep down. We talked about the armor stuff, which is finally, thankfully, in there. Always displaying armor, spell, physical, and regular armor, and then it not stacking anymore. It going off of the highest buff or debuff that is currently on it, which is cool. And the other thing, did you want to talk about matchmaking anymore? I think we kind of...
Yeah, I mean, we covered it a little bit. This is basically moving into when the new role system comes out. We're going to see this pretty soon. Basically, the matchmaker, for quick match at least, when the new role system rolls out, is going to prioritize including a tank, healer, and ranged assassin with 2 flex on each quick match team, unless, of course, you're in a group of 5, in which case there's no restrictions. And they're also adding bonus XP to queue for roles that are in shorter supply in the matchmaker, and those will be called out. So that's pretty cool as well.
And that is apparently already in the PTR. They call it the Nexus, which is interesting because the new roles aren't in there yet. So I'm actually wondering how they're doing that, whether it's just probably like warrior, support, assassin, and then
maybe
flex. So I haven't played it, but I've heard that is currently in there. We also talked about the boosts a little bit, but one thing I did not know about this. So again, these are the exact same as stim packs are currently. They're just getting buffed a little bit to where all active boosts in a game will give you a 5% bump in experience for that game. I assumed that meant just for your team. So you could get up to 20% with the other 4 people on your team. No, this is with everyone in the game. So you can actually get up to a 45% experience boost from this, which is huge. Like that's pretty nuts.
So yeah, you get it. You get the boost going from the enemy team too. And remember, this is out of game experience, not in-game experience. because that would be pay to win, and that would be absolutely
Artifacts.
terrible. Yeah, no, that would be very bad. No, this is out of game experience after the fact. So apparently, it's really cool when you start the game and you go into the game. Anybody who's got a boost active will have this cool little like lightning-ish symbol above their head to signify this person has a boost and is increasing your XP. So you can actually see who all on your team is boosting. Boosting. There's a rank joke in there somewhere. But yeah, once you do that, and then you can, for the people who don't have it, they can actually activate a boost before they leave the end game screen and have it retroactively apply too.
Yeah, and see, I'm still a little confused on that, because that makes it sound like you buy a boost to use for a game. But whenever we asked, this actually wasn't in the interview because we forgot to ask, but we were talking after the interview, they said that it acts just like the current stim packs do, which whenever you buy those, they automatically activate. So I'm not sure how they actually work, because
maybe they changed them to where you activate them, or you just buy it straight up right then and it activates.
But you can't. You have to do it while still in the post game screen, so you can't get to the shop. So I don't know. Maybe it's like you can buy.
No, we'll have to see how they change the UI.
Well, and I bet
maybe
now, like whenever you get them, because you can get like day stim packs or whatever from loot chests, you probably just get them now, and then you can choose to activate them, so that way you can save like your day ones for. Oh, I played with a group that there's 9 active boosts going on. Let me go ahead and throw mine on there at the end.
Yeah, we've been asking for that for a while.
Yeah,
like if you get the stim pack in a chest, to let me choose when to activate it. Because I don't want it just to activate if I'm not going to be playing the next day or the next 3 days or something like that. So that could be a good change if that's kind of the case.
Yeah, because I get those in my loot chest right now, and it's like, well, I already have the Black Friday stim pack, so it's like, I'll just go ahead and add that day on to my 3 months that's still running. Actually, I guess it's just around a month now that's left. It's running out. But ladies and gentlemen, joining us on tonight's episode of Lords of the Storm, episode 190, is Multizord. Multi, welcome.
That's right. Do I get to be as cheesy as that intro?
Yeah. How's it going? How you doing?
Don't forget to click like and subscribe at the bottom. No, I'm doing good. I'm doing well. How are you?
We're doing fantastic. Let's catch up with you here real quick. What have you been up to since BlizzCon? How have you been?
So the day after, we had all these grand plans. My 2 other buddies, TankZord, by the way, if you guys remember from the Cavalry podcast about Overwatch, keeping watch over Overwatch. We had all these plans for that Sunday, and they did not come to fruition. We ended up just chilling in the hotel room, playing WoW. So that was good. It was fine.
What were your special plans? Like, what was?
We were gonna go to the beach, and we were gonna they had some football games they wanted to watch, so we were gonna do that plus bar plus beach, and it was fine. We were just so wiped out from the first 2 days of BlizzCon that we got back at around 2 from this lunch, and we just crashed out for the most part. So it was fine.
That's fair enough.
Heroes on hotel Wi-Fi, though, not always so good, turns out.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was really funny. My buddy Travis actually got MVP in a game that he was disconnected good 2/3 of the time. So that's some solid AI Muradin play, if I may say.
It's
we already know the AI Muradin is amazing.
Yeah. That's right. Lands all the storm bolts. In fact, the best way to play AI is disconnected. Or to play Muradin, rather.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It's understandable that the Wi-Fi there throughout the con was awful. So, did it get any better, or was it just still?
It's awful. Whole time.
Yeah, it wasn't the best. Yeah, I think. There were just so many people there.
Yeah.
The hotel being full and everyone being gamers and stuff, there's a lot of people playing after hours.
Okay. Well, we were just talking about, of course, going back over some of the announcements and stuff at BlizzCon as far as the experience changes, boosts, matchmaking changes, and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing, and let's reiterate again, this BlizzCon, the hero stuff, they kind of, in my opinion, and what seems to be the opinion of a lot of people, they kind of just nailed it as far as everything they announced seemed to be exciting to people, with the exception of possibly the experience thing. But again, that's something we really can't have an opinion on until we get our hands on it and test it out. I'm not saying that they hit everything we wanted, but everything they announced was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can get down with that. And that includes the ranked stuffed. Ranked stuffed. Get stuffed. Which again is lost forgiveness stuff, combining Hero League and Team League, reduce placement matches, remove promotion and demotion games, showing MMR, removing ranked points. I mean, there's just a whole lot going on there, so I'm really excited to see how that stuff impacts ranked play. Did you guys have any thoughts that we didn't get into too much on Friday as far as ranked is concerned?
Not really. All this stuff sounded, at the very least, the first time we'll see this is probably the start of the 2019 season.
Mm-hmm.
And they did say we're not going to get it all at the same time. So I assume we'll probably get a big ranked blog that comes out at some point here in the next month or two that'll kind of, or at least hopefully, outline what their plan looks like for 2019 and when we can hopefully expect to see some of this new stuff.
So my question for you then is, what would you like to see make it into the first season?
Ooh, of the ranked stuff?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
Lost forgiveness for sure.
Okay.
That seems like an easy one to just slot in. I mean,
let's get that in quick.
Can't speak to it from a technical standpoint, but it seems like that one they could get going. I mean,
combining Hero League and Team League, maybe. That seems like another fairly. We always say that seems fairly easy. It could be like horribly difficult on the back end, but as far as I'm concerned, you just shove two UI things together and boom, you're done, right?
That's it.
Yeah, no biggie.
Yeah, I mean, you take what were two buttons and make it one button. You don't have to worry at all about what was someone's MMR in one of the ranks versus the other, and you don't have to think about any of that stuff. Just I like it.
I honestly, I think because some of this stuff is going to go together. Like, I think showing MMR, removing promotion, demotion, and reducing placement matches. The reducing placement matches might not be tied in with that, but for sure the show MMR and promotion, demotion games, because they're going to be switching, from what it sounds like, switching from a Diamond 5 to Diamond 1 thing and going from what sounded like a, Gold 50 through Gold 1. Platinum 50.
Sounded more like a
Platinum
StarCraft
1.
ladder.
Yeah.
Right, which is a full overhaul. So, I mean, if we get a full overhaul, a lot of those features are going to be lumped in together. The question just is when? I mean, do we wait another season? Is it like second or third season of 2019? I don't know.
That stuff feels like it's going to take a while. Like maybe
the full overhaul?
Yeah, like the lost forgiveness and seasonal rank stuff and maybe combining Hero League and Team League. That seems like it could be something that's implemented into the current system.
Right.
But yeah, that other stuff's definitely an overhaul.
Yeah, I think we could see the first four things: the combining Hero League, Team League, lost forgiveness, reducing placement matches, and then of course the seasonal ranked quest will come with the reduced placement matches that they were kind of talking about. So yeah, I see that those first four as maybe season 1 and 2 of 2019, and then the promotion, demotion, removal, PB, MM to educate players, and the showing MMR and removing rank points, maybe season 3, 4.
Yeah,
because those first four are compatible with the system as it exists now, so be a nice transition. Yeah, I'm with you there.
Okay, fair enough. But excited to learn more about that. Potentially, maybe we will learn I don't expect them to give us exact dates if those are mentioned in the AMA tomorrow, but maybe we'll get some more information on what their roadmap is looking like for that.
Yeah, they've given, if not exact dates, but timelines, roadmaps in the past. So maybe we could see. It'd be interesting to see at least the priority set.
Yeah,
of these.
They've given roadmaps in the past, and those roadmaps have not. That's where like things just disappear and things go to the roadmap to get off the path and not ever show up again. So
well, I mean, this is going back to that whole discussion that they had on the on the What's Next panel about transparency in general, and like how they want to be transparent, but if they're a little too transparent, then we call them out on, stop 2 on the roadmap didn't ever come, so like I would rather honestly them be a little bit more transparent than just shy away from that because they're worried about people picking it apart so much.
No, yeah, and I'm still 100% down for a roadmap. I just don't want them to go too far into the future with that roadmap. Keep it somewhat close on kind of what's in the immediate future there. But yeah, so again, all that stuff, super cool, super excited about it. But the other stuff that was announced at BlizzCon, at least most of it, is on the PTR right now. And by most of it, I of course mean the super important part about BlizzCon, and that is Orphea. Because if you guys have not had a chance to play her yet, you're going to love her. I feel like there's going to be... I feel like she's probably going to be one of the most welcomed heroes, like once people play her and her kit. I understand right now she's not the most loved because, where's Deathwing, where's all these things, but that's covered in our interview. We'll get to that here in a little bit, but her kit really is fantastic. And again, she's going to be free for people who attended BlizzCon, people who have virtual tickets, but she is not in the PTR free for you right now. But again, you can do those quests, get the gems to unlock her in the PTR and try her out. But she's super cool. But there's a couple of other really interesting things in the PTR. The first one is the channeled healing abilities coming through here. So Alex Straza's Lifebinder, kind of airbender.
Yeah, you got a new avatar nation. It's the Lifebenders.
The Lifebenders. Man, that would be a cool class of magic in the Avatar universe.
Sign
me up.
I'm also, TBK, I'm starting to sound like you at BlizzCon the more this episode goes on. So you may have gotten me. He may have gotten me.
With sickness?
Yeah. It's just, it's happening. It's happening right now.
Take their vitamin C.
It's happening right now. I was drinking Emergency all BlizzCon.
Then I can't be blamed.
But Lifebinder and then Rhaegar's Ancestral Healing abilities are no longer canceled under any conditions other than enemy abilities that remove the target from play. So like Devouring Maul, Gorge, and Cocoon.
Seems like a pretty big buff.
Yeah. I'm also wondering why that doesn't include things like Mal'Ganis Dark Conversion. That's technically a healing ability, right?
It's a channeled ability, though.
Well, but aren't these?
Yes, but so are these channeled healing abilities.
Rhaegar's Ancestral has always been interesting because the channel has happened on the hero itself.
On the
I guess there was maybe a tiny window you could have interrupted it. Maybe the windows were so short that they just did away with them. Like, honestly, I'm not exactly sure on the functionality. I know why they didn't do it on Mal'Ganis. Mal'Ganis is an actual long channel.
Stand there and channel.
Yeah. It's kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah. And then as well as the spell power modifiers, which is way above my head. I'm going to wait to see some stuff from Math of the Storm to come out so I'll understand it. But TBK, do you comprehend what is happening there and understand the changes? I can read words, but it doesn't mean anything to me.
So it's saying the following abilities and talents have been updated to have any percentage-based spell power modifier stack additively when calculating damage. So basically, like Zul'jin's Buzzsaw, Hanzo's Dragon Strike, center damage effect, and Gul'dan's Rampant Hellfire Q talent. Basically, I guess that would mean if you get multiple spell power modifiers, they will stack on top of each other additively.
Okay.
Right.
So like
just the raw number.
20% spell power modifier and a 30% spell power modifier. Those two, whatever those two numbers,
You have 50 now.
would increase, would stack additively.
Okay.
That's what I'm gleaning from this. And then the following abilities have had their tooltips updated to reflect percentage-based spell power modifiers will stack multiplicatively. So Phoenix, Vile Infection from Nazebo's passive, Lily's Lightning Serpent, and Li Ming's Arcane Orb talent, which that makes me think I get a 20%, and then the 30% increases the value that the 20% now gave.
Yeah. So it's like you're gaining 30% total of the what was baseline and 20% buff.
Exactly.
So multiplicatively. That's how I take it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I understand this. Why it was made, I don't know. Are there a ton of circumstances where you're going to get multiple spell power buffs? Not a ton, probably.
Well,
but
so far.
I would love to see where I need dev notes, dang it. Where's my dev notes? I want the dev notes on the channeled healing and the spell power modifiers.
We've seen changes like this come out before where like they're kind of laying the groundwork now for potential future heroes. Like we could see someone come out that is all about like buffing and debuffing spell power and
a bard.
Have this be like, maybe laying the groundwork for that. So potentially. But yeah, it is interesting because it's complicated. Like, and if the tooltip's actually going to read that percentage-based spell power is stacking multiplicatively on some of these abilities, I haven't actually seen how those read on the PTR yet or anything, but it seems like it's, a lot for Math of the Storm to digest for sure, but I don't think your average player is going to be able to.
Yeah. And then the other thing here that was interesting, and again, I haven't been on the PTR yet to notice this, but Dragonshire has received updated Battleground art, including an updated Dragon Knight. Have either of you seen this?
Yes, it is very interesting.
Is it drastically different, or is it just...
Not drastically different. It's got more of the lore type symbols. The Dragon
so it
Knight,
has dead kids underneath it?
that would be very morbid.
Well, from the lore.
It just got dark.
Dragon Knight.
It just got super dark.
No, I'm just saying. You remember from the comic?
Way to go
Hey,
evil.
there's
Multi.
nothing that said they died.
Good point. Okay.
Actually, I
at
think
least
there might have been.
unconscious kids. I'm not sure.
I noticed there was little like rose symbols in the middle lane. So there's just a few more little like lore symbols, I guess. The new Dragon Knight looks a little more like the Dragon Knight from the comic book, and he has ditched the shield, as Kyle Ferguson had a really nice gif of this on Twitter earlier. And he now is two-handing the axe.
Okay.
So not all the animations when I played on Tuesday night were present. And so like the actual, after you channel and then the dragon kind of breaking out and you becoming the dragon, it's just like an instant swap thing. So I'm sure they'll add that before it goes live, but it looks really nice.
Cool.
And it's scary, like two-handing the axe. He's like, screw the shield. I don't need no shield.
It's true. I mean, he never used it, so.
Interesting that didn't have any impact on his damage versus damage mitigation. I mean, you'd think if you're switching from a shield to a two-hander, at least if it were WoW, you'd be,
he's
that
maybe
up.
he's a barbarian class, and so as long as he's raging, he halves physical damage from slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning attacks. So
you
that
could
would
be on
mean,
something.
That's fair.
that would mean
And
he's just using the same as a shield.
with the armor changes, it no longer stacks, so it just takes the highest. Therefore, he no longer needs the shield because it wouldn't add on anyways. with the
Exactly.
recent armor
that
updates.
is true.
So
He's adjusting to the times.
Yes.
I like this.
it makes sense.
It's a very logical conversation, and I accept the conclusion.
So Orphea. We talked about her quite a bit on the mini-sode as far as her abilities and stuff. We don't need to go into that again. But from what I have seen as far as people's reactions on, in PTR and like crazy highlights and videos and things like that, and I was kind of assuming this was going to happen after I got my hands on her, but you guys think we might see some slight nerfs on anything before she makes her way over?
It's really hard to tell because there's going to be I feel like there's going to be such a difference in power level from the normal everyday Orphea player to the very strong, good Orphea player that she's going to come out and she's going to be amazing sometimes and horrid other times because she's not super tanky or anything. So if you get yourself in a bad situation, you're just going to die. There's like you miss a Q and you get into a bad situation,
You're dead.
You're going to die. Yeah. And so that was their whole deal with conditional mobility, was that it will take some skill to make you mobile and to maintain your mobility, which is better than freebie mobility. So because they've been trying to rein that back in just a little bit. So I don't know. I think there might be a few numbers tweaks between now and live, but I feel like they're probably not going to touch her a ton, and they're just going to kind of wait and see where she settles. And she might be one that comes out with a lower win rate because a bunch of people are trying her, and she's going to take a little while to get good at, and then have one of those like slowly, steadily rising win rates until potentially it gets a little too high. But I don't know. Could be a Medivh. Like Medivh is god tier in the hands of the right hands, but his win rate, if I'm not mistaken, on HotS logs is like abysmal.
Yeah, it's really bad.
So it could just be one of those type things.
Just hard to play,
Yeah.
Which is definitely going to be the case with her. But my only concern is that, like, for the truly good players, or even those who are above average on her, is it going to be too much? Because I don't know. It's like you said, Gizmo. We're starting to see some people put together some crazy plays and that sort of thing. And I think to me, it's about the movement with Shadow Waltz. Like specifically, how often you can get it to reset. I think some of those plays just get a little crazy. I could see maybe them tweaking, not necessarily the base cooldown of Shadow Waltz, but what it gets set to when you hit it on a baseline. So it gets set to 2 seconds. I could see them maybe even doing 2.5 seconds to just change up her rhythm and make it to where she can't just get so many off if you're good with it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, and TBK brought up a good point, and I'm actually, after thinking about that, I'm going to predict that she comes out with a pretty low win rate. And the reason behind that is, so she's going to be a fairly high skill cap hero. And with heroes like that, comparing her to, say Medivh, I have a feeling a ton of people didn't go out and buy Medivh when he first came out after trying him in try mode because he was such a weird character in high skill cap. But a lot of people are going to have Orphea and be playing her. And a lot of people that may not have bought her when she came out initially in the first place. So I think that could make her win rate go down a little bit, but we'll have to see. And there, it would be okay to come out with an overpowered hero right now because HGC is over. It's on its break, so there's plenty of time to get her tuned between then. The real issue would be ranked play right now, but you have 2 bans. You just accept one team's gonna ban Mal'Ganis, the other team's gonna ban Orphea. All right, you guys can share it. You can share the weight.
Right.
And Mal'Ganis did get nerfed last week.
He did
a little bit, so
that's true.
It helps.
There's a slight danger here, though. So if all of the BlizzCon and virtual tickets people get her for free, and a lot of people just love her and jump on her, and her win rate suffers because of that, it could be that Blizzard looks at the numbers and says, "Oh well, her win rate's not that great, so we don't need to nerf anything. Whereas the people on the top end of playing her are just wrecking games, or she's got a huge ban rate. So I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, they'll have those numbers between like if the top end's killing it and stuff, and they tweak things that are just towards the higher skill end. But yeah, the only other change to this, Gul'dan got a little slight buff at level 16, Rampant Hellfire. Damage bonus increased from 8 to 10%. I do love me some Gul'Daniel. More importantly, most important thing to mention tonight, besides Orphea, in the live game right now, Wonder Billy is available.
Wonder William.
Wonder William.
Wonder William. Yes.
He's grown since then.
So if you have not purchased him, you might want to do that because he's real good.
Yep, 12K gold.
Also known as worth it.
Also known as worth it. There are a few really cool, interesting announcers coming. The Kevin Michael Johnson announcer, also known as Cloakin, a.k.a. the guy who does all the voiceovers for the Hero Spotlight videos, is coming as an announcer. It's awesome. It was usable at BlizzCon, and it is essentially the anti-Alarak. Like, you know how Alarak just degrades you and debases you the entire game? He will, like, build you up and just, like, cheer you on. Like, at the very beginning of the game, he's just like, welcome to the game, guys. Don't forget to pick your talent.
Yeah.
You get a kill on somebody, and he's just like, well, guess they didn't read the patch notes.
And
all sorts of fun.
He helped write almost all of his lines because he was trying to capture himself. Like, how would I say double kill? How would I say multi-kill, you know? So, like, that's got to be fun.
Well, I know he was mentioning it, how weird it was.
Yeah, right.
To write your own script, so.
But also, interestingly, we are getting a Ka and a Nethys announcer coming with the PTR as well. And those are the Realm Lords for Sky Temple and Tomb, I believe.
Yeah, Nethys' Tomb. She's the Spider Queen.
Yeah. So interesting stuff, just more lore stuff coming in, but now they're their own announcers, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and it was cool. I believe it was on the deep dive, seeing, I don't think we had seen artwork of either of those.
No, we hadn't.
Yeah, deep dive was the first
until
time.
the deep dive. So that was really cool.
And then Nethys is also the Lady of Thorns' sister, if I'm not mistaken. We got from that as well. So could be that she wants to enact some revenge for her.
Wasn't that the Garden Terror? I thought was her sister.
That's the Lady of Thorns.
Yeah, she's over the Garden of Terror.
Is it?
I'm
pretty sure.
Spider Queen was different.
Spider Queen is the Neth.
I'm gonna look this up during the dev interview, and we're gonna figure it out afterwards, so we can get our lore straight.
The last thing here, real quick, before we jump into that interview, on Reddit, Zad1111 did some data mining and some PTR patch files and found some interesting bits that suggest shards may be available for purchase here in the future, and that you'd be able to get bonus loot chests by purchasing shards. So it's interesting.
It's interesting
because
this may all be because of the whole, and we talked about this a little while ago, the whole Belgium thing, where Belgium was banning or potentially going to ban loot boxes. So if they ban loot boxes, how else does Blizzard make money? You sell shards. This could be a really interesting thing if it was made generally available, though, because as of right now, there is no other way to obtain shards other than to get duplicates in loot chests. And so if shards were made available to purchase in bunches of X amount, that would essentially allow you to, quote unquote, buy any item in the game with actual money.
Yeah. Well, so the interesting thing I find about it, so a shard chest, like it's saying you can buy these shard chests in packs. A chest makes me think you're still buying these and you're opening the chest for a chance at shards between a certain amount, which would still be a kind of a gambling thing. Otherwise, why would you buy a chest
Maybe.
of shards? Why wouldn't you just
Because
buy
how else are you going to
100
hold shards?
Yeah.
I mean,
You're just
a
gonna buy them
pile
all
of
individually.
shards?
bag of shards?
A bundle
Wheelbarrow
of
of shards?
A
Yeah.
I mean, a
I'm
chest
thinking one at a
seems like a
time.
pretty good holding, container. A box of shards? Maybe a bin of shards?
a bin.
I think
I
we're
like
on
that.
something. The weird thing about this, though, is that like
Tupperware.
if
of
this
shards.
was a new change coming, like a massive change to how the system works, like globally, wouldn't it have possibly been a talking point in the what's next panel at least? It seems to me like this is the sort of thing that would have come up at BlizzCon if it was a big change coming, which is what makes me think that maybe it is just the workaround for Belgium.
Potentially, and it
Could
also maybe they
It is
didn't-
data mined too.
yeah.
So it might be something that was just left in the build and the references weren't taken out, or it's something they're playing around with and we might not see it materialize for several more months. You never know.
Yeah.
Also, I checked and I was correct. So Nethys is Tomb of the Spider Queen.
Yeah.
Ka is Sky Temple.
Mhm.
And
Got
then
it.
Lady of Thorns, of course, is over Dragonshire, and her sister is Queen Nightshade, who
That's what
rules
it
over
was.
the Garden of Terror.
Okay.
Got it.
And then there's Blackheart, Gravekeeper, and Ravenlord. So those are the 7 current known realm lords.
Very interesting.
Checks out.
All right, guys. So we are going to go ahead and jump into our interview that we did at BlizzCon. This has been up on YouTube for a few days. So if you are watching with us live and you've seen it, I apologize. Go grab a snack or something. It's about 20 minutes long. But we know a lot of you, our audio listeners, have not seen this yet. So we're going to go ahead and get this going. And again, it was with lead hero designer Matt Villers and lead animator Karina Kingdom. And it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. So without further ado, enjoy.
Hi, I'm Matt Villers, lead hero designer on Heroes of the Storm.
And I'm Karina Kingdom, lead animator for Heroes of the Storm.
All right, guys. So Gizmozord, this is Lords of the Storm, and you know what? The Heroes deep dive may be going on right now, but we're getting ready to dive deep with the lead hero designer and lead animator. So obviously it's been an exciting weekend. We want to start out with some Orphea questions. First one I have for you is kind of the chicken or the egg. So was Orphea first conceptualized as just a character you wanted to bring into the lore, or was she kind of designed going into that? You guys already knew you wanted to bring her in as a hero.
Got it. So kind of what happened is I want to say back in maybe January, we started talking about this possibility of what would it look like if we did a Nexus-born hero, who sounds really exciting that we could do. We kind of got drawn back to the Ravenlord. He's this cool character. He's kind of snarky. He seems like he'd be really powerful, right? So we thought, okay, this word stuck with us. The Ravenlord's daughter, what would that look like? And then Oscar, who is one of our fantastic concept artists, he got in the room, and he put up this concept of Orphea, and we saw this, and we're like, we have to make this character. Like, this is just too cool. That's pretty much kind of how that process went. Is like we kind of knew we wanted to do a Nexus-born hero. We weren't sure what it looked like until we got in that room with that picture, and then we were sold.
So you knew before, like, the first comic came out where she was introduced into it because you already had the concept?
Yeah, we were kind of like slowly building up that story. We wanted to give her kind of some background so you'd have a chance to know what's going on in the Nexus, who are these big characters, who are the players there. It gives us a chance to tie in a lot more of our events into the story and kind of have those make sense, and then also just kind of build up, like, who is Orphea? Why should we care about her? What is she doing here, right?
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, another quick question on that. So without getting into any real spoilers or anything into the lore, of course, what can you tell us about her magic? Because, the Ravenlord in the cinematic was saying, oh, that's a dead magic. That's beneath me. But then it's also the most awesome thing we've probably ever seen in the game. So, like, what more can you say about that and some background there?
Sure. One of the wonderful things about Orphea is that she is such a wonderful mix of absolute devastating power, where she is she jumps into battle and you can lay waste to all your enemies. But at the same time, she has that noble blood in her, and she can just pirouette away out of battle, which from the animation side and art side of things was super, super important to us, because that really allowed us to sort of hone in on where she sits in the Nexus and how she plays it with all the other characters.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And then kind of from the lore and story side, right, it's basically the story is you've got this relic you see on her back, right? And this kind of holds this ancestral power, essentially. Like, that's what's coming in here is, like, you'll see in the comics, if you look, there's actually several of these relics, and, like, it all represents her family lineage, which is very powerful, right? Like, the Raven Lord he's got the singularity. He's essentially the demigod of his realm, right? So, you know, she's calling on this power of her ancestors, and it's really manifesting as her will, right? Like, you'll hear later on when you see, because I'm sure you're going to watch the recording, right? Lana actually talking about this, and like, depending on who holds that relic, what comes out is different. So in Orphea's case, this is showing kind of what's going on inside, that she's really conflicted and frustrated with, you know, what her father's doing, and kind of that resolve that she's going to do something about it. So that magic that you see coming out of that box, it is her will manifesting and you know, smashing into everything that gets in her way.
So, quick follow-up to that. In the comics, we saw only a few abilities of her, and it almost seemed like a purple beam, which would have been different at that time. So has it transformed into this because of what happened at King's Crest, and now she's angry, and so it's changed from, like, this purple light to a lot of things with teeth.
Got it. So if you look closely in the comic, you'll notice that the relic in that case was actually bound up, and she wasn't using it directly. So that was just kind of her own magic that she was throwing out there. Like, she is in and of herself very powerful. Like, you see her floating around, like, just effortlessly carrying this huge thing. Like, that is her power. Like, she is in and of herself, you know, a strong magic user. And then using this relic is a way to enhance that power. And that's what you see when she's fighting in the cinematic with her father.
The fourth comic book is coming out very soon, and that has, like, huge amounts of information regarding Orphea and her entire backstory. So definitely check that one out because it's really cool.
So first of all, that's super awesome. And secondly, just for both of you, kind of on the development side, being first off the BlizzCon hero, and then second off being the first unique Nexus hero, did she have a lot longer development cycle than normal?
So, yeah, there's definitely some extra time that comes in there. There's two things, right? Normally, we make a hero in about 6 to 9 months or so. For the BlizzCon hero, it tends to take a little bit longer. And then you add on to that, we're doing this thing where we're exploring a brand new character. Like, we've made, you know, new characters before in the sense of, like, Brightwing, Lieutenant Morales, you know, Blaze, right? But with these heroes, you know, we still knew what their background is, kind of what to expect from them, you know. A fairy dragon's going to do fairy dust and, you know, probably some healing stuff. You know, Firebat's going to do fire. That's a given, right? But Orphea is, like, we saw this box and this cool-looking monster thing, and it was just endless possibilities. So there was a lot of exploration that went into what does she actually do? You know, what do her powers look like? We could do anything, and that just is a huge, scary place of, like, I'm looking at this blank sheet of paper, and I'm not sure where to start. And really working together as a team, we had to spend time kind of sending ideas back and forth, what sounded really cool, what resonated with us, and that slowly formed into what became Orphea's kit and her powers and how she expresses herself.
Yeah, for the first time, like, because every character we have has, like, 20 years of Blizzard history that is attached to it, and they're not our characters. They belong to the fans. Like, there's that huge amount of sentimental value that we have to sort of research and cater to. And with Orphea, it was like the first time that, like, it was a developer's dream. Like, the sky was the limit. You have to see the talk today, because, like, at the same time, the sky was the limit, and we had endless possibilities, which we started it early in the year, and it was such an iterative process between design and effects and animation, sound design, hiring a VO actor to play the voice, like, for the first time, because you always know exactly who does the voice of Kel'Thuzad, who does the voice of Thrall. But with Orphea, it's like, there was such a wonderful process that was very unique that we hadn't experienced before, which is why we were so excited about it.
Yeah, and it takes a lot more time to put all that together too.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so not only the development cycle for the hero and the kit and stuff, but her animations are beautiful. It's so flashy, so smooth. So was that also just, I mean, how fun is it to be able to just come up with all these new animations? And
that was incredibly fun. It was such an iterative process from the beginning, because we were bouncing off because at the same time the comic books were being written at the same time as we were developing Orphea, as well as the trailer. And so every single one of us was coming up with new ideas and then seeing what the other person was creating, and we were like just completely bouncing off one another. And one of the really cool things about Orphea was the amount of effort and work that went into her effects. Like the Chomp character was both animation and the effects department working side by side. Like Thomas Horwath was the effects artist that did her effects, and Lana Bashinsky was the one that did all of her animations. Completely tanked it from like beginning to end, and did an amazing job.
Yeah, you guys have set the bar really high from this point on with those animations. So.
So I want to, yeah, right, yeah, no pressure.
It's all uphill from here.
Exactly. So anyway, I also wanted to ask specifically about her mobility, because I think she's going to be a really high skill cap hero, generally speaking, and I think the mobility with her Shadow Waltz, the extra step that you take and the dash that comes out of it, is where a lot of that's going to come from. So what was kind of the thought process behind that, and can we expect to see more abilities like that in the future?
So there's two different things I'm going to dive into here. One is that, because of the type of character she is, she has this kind of elegant look to her, right? And we really wanted to capture a little bit of that. Like there was almost a concept early on of her being kind of a dancer type character. And we didn't go all in on that, but we wanted to have some of that feel in there. So that was part of the inspiration for her. She's using her magic and she's landing her skill shot and she's getting to gracefully pirouette away afterwards, right? But on the gameplay side, we put a lot of thought into this as well, because we've gotten obviously a lot of feedback from our players about mobility, and we've been thinking about how we can, because mobility is really fun, and how can we keep giving that to heroes, but in a way that feels really good to play with and against. So something we're trying to focus on is conditional mobility, and that's very much the inspiration here with her ability to do that skill shot and to dash away. So
and
basically,
you have to land the skill
exactly,
shot to be able to do it.
There is a cost to it. You have to skillfully land your hit. Enemies have interaction. They can try to dodge it. They can, use invulnerabilities. There's lots of ways that they can avoid that to prevent her from having that mobility. So, yeah, if she's landing it, she gets to move a lot. But if she's not and you were able to prevent it, then you're good. Like if you're, a Vala or something, you can outplay her with Vault and, avoid that kind of chase that she would otherwise have.
Yeah.
So it's a reward, essentially, instead of just, you just get to move.
Or pirouetting towards you and chomping your face.
Exactly. That's the way I love to use it.
Yep.
Forever.
Yep. So, kind of transitioned a little bit. Now that we've seen her, now that she is here, can we expect to see more of these in the future? And I mean, we were talking right beforehand, and Greg had the great point of like how often. Right.
Yeah, because I mean, the door has been opened. Like you can't close the door now. This game was before kind of like BlizzCon the game, and now it's our own thing. I mean, it's still kind of BlizzCon the game, but we have our own lore. So, what's the kind of cadence going forward you guys are looking for, or are you not looking for anything? Just when it feels right.
I mean, of course, you got to ask. I can't, of course, spoil anything, right? I don't want to blow the surprises. What I can tell you is, I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
I thought this was an exclusive interview.
I'm sorry. But, okay, for real, though, she's been extremely cool. The reaction has been great. It could totally happen again. No promises here, but we're open to the idea. One thing that I want to get across, though, is like obviously people brought up it is BlizzCon the game. It's still BlizzCon the game, right? There's other heroes that people are excited about, that I'm excited about, that we want to get in, and that's not something we're going to stop doing. So
sure, and it's one of those things. We've had 80-ish heroes. One in 80, one in 50, one in even 25. I mean, if you think about that, it's not that often, really. And so I guess kind of moving away, Kevin was talking about higher skill caps. And so we've seen the reworks announced for Sylvanas and for Stitches, and talking about how trying to make those more interesting to play, making Slam more interesting to play. From a gameplay perspective, are you a little worried that we're taking away, or that things will get reworked out of easy player entrance and keeping the balance between these high skill cap, very fun to play heroes like Orphea, some of the reworks of making some of these heroes a little more interactive or a little more unique or higher potential skill cap, and then making sure that we still have heroes that don't alienate people as well, that they can still get into, play easily, that type of thing.
Got it. So I'm going to get on the rework. So I'm going to take it back to Orphea for just a second since you mentioned her. One of our big goals with Orphea was actually that we wanted to kind of get in this Li-Ming space where her abilities are actually pretty straightforward. They're easy to understand. She feels accessible, but has a lot of that skill cap. As an example, her dance ability, right? One of the key goals for that was for it to feel as natural as possible. So we very deliberately, like, we could have made it so you land the skill shot and then it reactivates the button and you can click it and cast it again. But we built it actually so that when you right-click to move after that, you just automatically jump in that direction. So it is this very natural, like, even if you're not actively thinking about it and using that mind share, you still can get some of that benefit. And then as you use her more and you become a more skilled player with her, you can then start to really think about, how do I want to spend this? And then you can use it to do follow-up chomps, to dash sideways for a skill shot, maybe do things you wouldn't normally do with another hero to pull off really cool, fancy plays. So that's totally a thing that we're chasing, to try to keep that goal of, you know, easy to learn and difficult to master. Those, I think, are the best heroes that we can put out there. So when it comes to reworks, that absolutely is something we're keeping in mind. For reworks, we want to both keep, like, what are the core elements of their fantasy and the mechanics that people love. We want to keep those in place. But then also making sure that the people who love those heroes right now can still enjoy them after we make those updates. It's absolutely something we're keeping in mind.
So we have the new role systems that have been announced. Does that, going forward, make it a little easier to decide, like, what a character is going to be? We haven't had a specialist in a while because I think we knew you guys were wanting to transition away from that. But going forward, like, do you, with that rule set and mindset, is it easier for you while designing the hero to kind of have the direction for it?
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's helpful for us as well. The thing is that back in the day, we set our 4 roles, and they pretty well fit what we were building at the time. But something that, as a designer, you really have to accept is that ultimately your game is what your players make it in terms of how they play. Like, if I say this hero's a tank, and then I give it to you, and you say it's a bruiser, and that's the way it's played by our whole community, like, we have to embrace that, and that's just how it is. Or, you know, make changes that are needed to accomplish that. But ultimately, we've recognized that our game has evolved over the years, and these roles better reflect the way that our players are now playing. And that also can help to inform, like, making sure that as we're making new heroes, that they clearly fit into those roles, and it's easy for players to get right on board with, okay, this is the role that I'm supposed to fill, and it's meeting everyone's expectations.
Also, speaking of big changes, because the role system, yes, that is super awesome. I'm excited for it, especially with what it'll allow for just making things a little more clear, I guess, for players. But this is kind of for both of you, because I know you guys all do play tests all the time. And I know I think the really big thing that is coming out of this BlizzCon, besides new hero, I mean, we knew new hero, yeah, it's awesome, but the big XP changes.
Oh, yeah.
And how laning is going to work, and the way forts and towers and catapults now and stuff. And this is almost very on par with the globe changes and the ammo changes of this last year. And so just I kind of wanted to allay fears a little bit, because I know it's big change, and change is scary. And you guys have actually been playtesting this for months. And so I wanted to get you both of your opinion on how this feels. Do you see a lot more level closeness than you did before? And does that still feel good if, say, we're doing really good, but the other team is still within, like, a level of us, or the same level as us, and then we make one tiny mistake at the end of the game, and they're already set up to just completely win it back? And the feel, like, does that feel good or not? So I wanted to kind of get you guys' opinions on that, and a little more, since you've been playing on it.
You want to start out and I'll jump in?
Sure. As a Zagara main, I have definitely noticed it a lot. Every time we play test, we all, rush at the chance to play whatever new character that we're working on. And I always miss that opportunity. I always forget where they're positioned in the selection tab. And so I always end up being the balance that we can grade against. And so the new system changes allows us, instead of getting XP from the keep, it's actually in the forts that you take down. And every third wave, you get a catapult down that lane. And what that means is that during huge, like if you take out the garden golem or any kind of boss, your strategy changes and evolves as a result of a lane that is actually exposed. You actually have to, you can either use it to your advantage, or you have to actually look after it and defend it if necessary. So.
Yeah, totally. So the big thing from our perspective was, and we even saw this in our own playtests, is sometimes you get games where you're 3, 4, even 5 levels apart, and it gets to the point where the game is basically over and you're just kind of going through the motions to conclusion, right? And that's not fun on the receiving end or even on the winning end. It's not an enjoyable experience. So we didn't want to eliminate having a lead for skilled play. Like, you should be rewarded for making good plays, for getting to level 10 first, things like that, right? But at the same time, like, the game shouldn't be over until it's actually over, or else, like, the drama's just not there and you're not having a good time. So what we wanted to do is try to bring that in a little bit. So you can still have, 1 level, 2 level gaps if you're playing well. Like, even in our playtests now with these changes, we still see level 10 to level 8 reasonably often. But it's not like, okay, now we're level 12 to level 17, right? Like, that kind of thing isn't happening. So the way we wanted to approach that is, again, as you heard, shifting the experience, kind of pulling it out of those structures. But we still wanted to make sure that it felt rewarding to take a structure. That was a big thing for us, because initially we just pulled the XP out of the structures and we're like, why do I even care about forts anymore, right? So the catapults were very much an attempt to address that. Is I actually get something nice and meaty for taking that fort out. I get a catapult every third wave, and what's cool about that is you can learn the cadence that those catapults come in, and you can start making strategic decisions around that. You can go, okay, there's catapults coming up in top lane. Let's pick a fight in bottom and keep them busy for as long as possible. While that catapult goes in and gets value, gets more walls down, put some damage into their keep. They have to go deal with it. Then you can go after merc camps. Like, it's a different kind of lead in the sense that it's map control versus experience. So you're still ahead and you still feel like you're ahead. But when it comes time to fight over that objective, you're not so far ahead that there's no chance for them to come back.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And I assume, and this is not coming on PTR next week, but this is coming soon. And so I assume you guys really want feedback on this, how it feels, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like with last year's changes, we want to get feedback from our players, and we're happy to continue making adjustments in response to that.
Yeah,
awesome.
go to the forums. Let us know.
Yes, for sure. And I know we have to get things wrapped up a little bit, so as a kind of the final thing, since you've both been playing Orphea now, tips and tricks for new people, because everybody at BlizzCon is getting her. Everybody who's got a virtual ticket is getting her. It's a pretty big deal, and so there's going to be a lot of Orpheas running around. How to Orphea?
You want to share some thoughts?
Put everything on Chomp on the E ability. Every talent, like
I
the
agree.
first tier, 4th tier, the 7th tier, that is by far the funnest. That's my only advice.
Well, we know what Karina's playstyle is. No, it is really fun to go in and kind of do that. Just like, I'm smashing you with Chomp. It's great against bruisers. The big thing for me as more of like a mage style player, like I love the Li Mings and the Janas of the world, is I really like playing the style around her Crushing Jaws heroic, where you go in and you try to get this setup where you grab a couple people with it, and as the Crushing Jaws are going at you, throw out the Dread, and you drop down your Q, and you dash in, and just as the Crushing Jaws are hitting and the Dread's exploding, you then also drop down Chomp because you've just dashed in, and it's this just amazingly satisfying combo, and if you can get it right, like, it's magic comes out. But aside from that, really just kind of be mindful of your distance, because each of her abilities has kind of this different threat range, right? She has a long range ability, she's got a medium range ability, she's got a short range ability, so you don't always have to go in for Chomp. Like, look for your moments, right? But don't be afraid to hold on to it until you find that safe time, because you still have your other abilities to kind of get some work done, build up your trait stacks, get your health in before you go in for the kill.
All right, well, Matt, Karina, thank you all very much. Guys, again, this is Lords of the Storm at BlizzCon, and we'll do it again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Muted. Mute button. Ah, yes. That was nice. That was a very fun interview to do, and it was a pleasure finally getting to talk to Matt, because we have talked to him a lot over the years and have never been able to get him down for an interview, but we did this time.
Right.
And it's interesting. So again, that interview was during the deep dive that was on Saturday morning. And after watching the deep dive and listening to the interview again and stuff, it was one of my worries that, like, maybe we're going to ask stuff that's covered in the deep dive, which we did, but still got some different stuff on, which is really cool. Just kind of like a deeper look into the creation of Orphea and kind of their thoughts and some of the changes coming through.
Yeah, and not everybody can watch the deep dive either. If you didn't get a virtual ticket.
True, too.
That's true. But It's a really good deep dive. It's a really good deep
Well,
dive.
honestly, the deep dive
Yeah.
was a lot about character design and animation design, and we had the hero designer and the lead animator. So, like, it was a good mix.
Yeah,
We had the deeper dive. Let's claim that.
the deepest dive.
There you go.
The deepest. But yeah, I mean, it's always a pleasure, and
Yeah.
we hope to be able to talk to them soon. Matt has been awesome in our community personally. I know he's in our Discord and hangs out, and the dude loves talking heroes. Like it's super exciting to have somebody as passionate at the game as he is.
You won't
at the
find a
head
whole
lead
lot more
designer.
passionate people
Oh,
on
yeah.
Heroes than Matt Villers. He's always down to talk stuff.
Always down to clown. We should move on here because as cool as, these announcements were at BlizzCon and talking about Heroes of the Storm, there was this other little thing that happened that was called the HGC Finals. So, we'll let TBK get into that. All right, TBK, the hypest crowd at any of the finals I've been to so far. Overall,
Oh yeah,
it was
by far.
exciting to be at.
it was standing room only in several of the matches, and it's a really interesting thing. So, FYI, if you didn't see it for some reason, spoilers. Plug your ears, close your eyes, unless you're listening to this and you're driving. Then please don't close your eyes. But it's kind of interesting because the finals played out in some ways very much as we all expected them to play out, but in other ways almost played out completely different than
So
we
close.
expected. So to start things off on Friday, Gen G easily okay. I'll finish going through this, but I have so okay. Gen G took down the 2-0 on Friday. HeroesHearth put up an extremely valiant effort against Team Liquid and actually took a game off of them, and could have even potentially won that. So that was the first almost upset of the tournament. Dignitas, as expected, took down Tempest Storm 2-0, and then Miracle took down Tempest 2-0. Fast forward to Saturday, we have our Gen G versus Team Liquid game. This game, or this series, was probably more hype than the actual finals was.
Oh,
This-
I really do think so. Yeah.
It went to 5 games, and Liquid almost beat Gen G. It ended off 3-2, but it could have easily gone Liquid's way and upset predictions completely.
So the craziest thing about this series, and it carried on into the finals for Gen G, is the fact that Gen G in several situations was losing the game, like every aspect of a match.
Right.
And sometimes it was the other, Liquid or Dignitas making a mistake, but their comebacks, like it wasn't just like one comeback, it was and then like another close game. It was crazy comebacks. Like they were never out of the game, even when it seemed like they were. So
Yeah, even when they were down a few levels, even down a talent tier, and way down on objectives,
They were down
would still just like
3 levels at some points.
yeah, they
That's-
were.
And
That's the thing about the Korean teams, is they just punish you so hard for the little things.
yeah, which
Yeah, for sure.
for a game with no comeback mechanics, am I right?
Right,
Now,
right.
if anything, this
6.5
proves
out of 10.
that the comeback is real in this game. So it's they're in the fact that they're playing against a visiting crowd for them. Like the casters made a great point. Like the crowd was so nuts at points in that game they can hear it whenever somebody makes a play against them and the crowd goes nuts. They can probably feel it from the stage rumbling, and they just don't care. They don't care. They're like, no, we like
best in the world.
We got this.
And like I said, this game was probably, this was the standing room only. Like this was absolutely, the crowd had just packed the place out, far back past the chairs. It was pretty incredible. But unfortunately, one tiny mistake at the end of Game 5 cost Liquid the series. And that's just the thing, and that's why Gen G is considered the best team in the world. After that was Dignitas versus Miracle. Miracle did actually manage to take a game off of Dignitas, but Dignitas ended up winning 3-1. And then we got the finals that essentially most everyone had predicted we would get. Gen G versus Dignitas. Unfortunately, we did not quite get the games that everyone, or I guess the closeness that everyone had predicted, as Gen G actually ended up beating Dignitas 3-0. Now, don't let that fool you. Dignitas put up a heck of a fight in at least one or two of the games.
Arguably,
wasn't it
game
3-1?
1 and 3. No, it was 3-0.
Yeah, it was 3-0.
It was 3-0. But yeah, game 1 and 3. So game 1 was a little bit closer just in general. But in the end, it was just Gen G coming out on top. Game 2, though, was actually a really significant pummeling of
It was a
Gen G
stomping.
against. It was absolute stomping. But then the weird thing happened. Game 3 occurred, and it appeared by every metric to be a complete stomping by Dignitas, actually. They came in, they were way up on levels, objectives, everything, just pushing in. I believe it was on
patented
Praxis, if I'm not mistaken.
JPL stitches.
Yeah,
on
it was
Infernal Shrines.
landing the hooks, and they were following it up with it perfectly, and it was just, the crowd was going absolutely nuts.
Every time the hooks, and he hit them almost every single time. I lost my voice during this match.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It got to the point where as soon as a hook would go out, the crowd would go nuts and cheer. And then, like, on the
Even if it hit
occasions he
nothing.
missed, it would be like, oh.
There was the one time he got the Rainer's Raider, that little wraith flying around, and I was going, yeah, oh, wait. Oh, that was just so anyway, but I do think, though, the one call that made the difference in that game was that final call that Dignitas made. So game was coming down to the wire. They were pushing in really deep, actually getting very aggressive, I thought, near the very end there. And it almost seemed like it was going to work, but they actually pushed the core down to a mere 3%, just 3. And people have gone back a little bit to analyze that moment to see, like, okay, if they'd gotten just a couple more abilities off, or if they had survived just a spare second, or if this one stun hadn't landed, anything like that could have made the game. Tassadar Shields made the difference. Every little aspect made the difference in that game. And yeah, so Dignitas didn't get it. Genji held at 3% and then just marched to finish the game on the other core. So, but like, that was exciting to watch too, even though it was a dig loss at the end and I was kind of rooting for them. It was a fun way to end the year, honestly, that game.
Yeah. A Digna loss.
But
No, so it's not just like, the crazy thing about the end of that game, it wasn't just one call. It was a series of calls on that entire area. Like, they pushed into core, they started on core, they decided they wanted to try and get one more pick, which they tried getting for like 30 seconds. And then they were like hesitant if they wanted to go on core. And then they went on core. And then Kerrigan zoned for like a few seconds and stuff instead of hitting core. And I think it was Chaos from Wrath of the Storm said it came down to like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 auto attacks from a Kerrigan at that point in the game. And it's it's crazy. It's unfortunate. I'm not sure if it's, I think in the end it is a bad call at that point because, again, they were up 3 levels. But at the same time,
they got greedy. They didn't need to finish it there.
I think I get why, though, because, like, okay, so game 2, they had been stomped about that hard. I don't think it was desperation. No, I think they were trying to get in Genji's head because game 2, they really got their butts handed to them, right? So if you can come back in game 3 and do the same but more so, like, and they truly did. Most of that game, they were truly crushing Genji. And to finish with like a really aggressive, just like real punch in the face of like, we don't even care that your full team is up. We're just going to push your core down. Who cares? Had they won that game, I think, and I don't know this for sure, but there's the possibility it could have rattled Genji a little bit and made a very different series.
Yeah.
I know. I do feel like it was a little bit of desperation. Their top was exposed, and I'm sure they wanted to finish it before something like what happened. Because Genji takes advantage of every little opportunity, and I think they felt like we need to take this here. Because logically, I mean, I understand potentially like let's stomp them, but at the same time, this is Genji who's beaten you in 2 games. I don't think getting beaten 1 game would rattle them that much. I think they just were desperate for the win at that point. And that kind of leads me into the whole second topic. Why in the heck was that not a best of 7? And why in the heck are we having best of 3s in the quarterfinals of HGC's biggest tournament?
Especially when we had the time this year. So,
well,
in previous years, it's gone so late and so far over that it even stacked with the concerts at the end and that sort of thing. I know that happened in 2016 anyway. But this year, we had the time. We totally could have done
I think we totally did have the time.
We had the time this year because it only went 3 games. If it would have gone to 5, it probably would have ended right when the concerts were starting, which they couldn't go over this year because Lindsey Sterling was playing on the Hero stage. That
was second day, not first day.
Oh, yeah. Quarterfinals, yeah. That
true.
But
second day,
sure.
yes. Best of 5, I wish it was best of 7.
Yeah.
Best of 5, still somewhat okay, but best of 3s are not okay in the biggest tournament of the year. Like,
agreed.
That is the harshest criticism you'll probably hear me give for like Heroes things, but it just felt like a colossal mistake, especially when we had things. We see so many reverse sweeps in just the HGC general play, and especially, I mean, if you look at some of the games with how close they were, especially the HeroesHearth Liquid match, I don't know. It's maybe it wouldn't have made a huge difference for some of the games, but it just doesn't feel right for the quarterfinals of the biggest tournament of the year to be a best of 3.
Yeah, and if it is best of 3, it's a best of 3, and it doesn't even have a losers bracket. It's a single elim. But
yeah, that too. I feel like we would have had the time on Friday because they finished well ahead of schedule on Friday.
Yeah.
The problem is you have to kind of like plan for, okay, if these are all best of 5s, what if they all go to 5 or a good chunk of them? Then that's a totally different time constraint than a lot of 3-0 blowouts, you know? So I'm sure they were factoring that in, but I'm still 100% with you, of course.
It is, and I don't think they'll ever solve it or come up with a format that like we want as viewers when this is being played at BlizzCon. Because yes, they ended early, and they could have gone late, but then you are having players who are trying to compete at their peak, having super long days, and then having to get up early and continue playing at their peak the next day. So it's just one of those things.
It's just one best of 5. Like, that's not that much.
Here's another idea. Could it be possible to start the opening ceremonies of BlizzCon earlier? Because like 11, the time that it was PST, I don't know. I mean, it felt like there was a lot of run-up time. I mean, obviously they've got to get everyone in there and such, but if they kicked it back just an hour or 2, I mean, okay, yes, that means we're all getting a lot less sleep before we actually get in there and do the thing, but I feel like it could have worked. And then freed up the time for this kind of thing.
A few hours aren't going to adjust for that many games. Like like they've had better formats in the past that have worked better and they've run later, but I just don't think there's any way in a 2-day convention as much as I want it to be. I don't think there's any way to get like a super satisfactory final setup, which brings me to the, like, I love it being at BlizzCon and I love the finals being there, but at the same time, part of me wants it to be separate, like the Overwatch World Cup is, or I mean, the Overwatch League finals and stuff like that, and have something else at BlizzCon. While I probably couldn't make it to that live because I don't have that time, I could still watch it and it be in a better format. And
it'd be more satisfying.
Yeah.
In some ways, because any sort of live esports are going to be awesome just because you're there, you got the roar of the crowd, whatever. You still want a big tournament there, maybe hold Western Clash, one of the Western Clashes at BlizzCon. Maybe hold Mid-Season Brawl at BlizzCon or something. But I just feel like the biggest, it's BlizzCon, the way it's lined up and the way they have it set up is not doing justice to what should be the biggest tournament of the year.
Yeah. And that's, for that to happen, though, for it to break away from BlizzCon, it needs to grow as an esport because they want that big crowd to be there for the finals. So it's not like they can, it's not like they're going to fill the Berkeley Center like the Overwatch League did. Hopefully it would fill something like the Blizzard Arena, but who knows if they held it at a different time of the year and did a World Cup type thing or something at BlizzCon.
I've heard tell that, potentially DreamHack would be an awesome place for it. There's your week long.
Yeah.
There's your big thing.
Maybe.
I've heard that potentially one of the issues of that is that it only holds 1,000 people, which means they potentially expect more than that for the finals.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I'm
honestly not sure, like, what their expectations would be. But I don't know. I feel like something needs to change next year.
In Hearthstone, they grab a myriad of different venues actually around the world. Like, it seems like the past 2-3 years, I can't rattle them off the top of my head, but they were various different countries, and it was always like a big enough venue to host that sort of thing. I don't know where they're hosting it this year even, or rather next year, because it's going to be early 2019. But again, maybe they could explore something like that, where they're not tied to anything specifically. They're just needing a venue that's big enough that works.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure,
but it's the
it's a conundrum.
It's the pros and cons, the pros and conundrums of having the finals at a 2-day con. So we'll see. Hopefully, if they've learned nothing, and it is the same as next year, at least please have 2 different streams with commentary for the group stages.
Yes, for the secondary, or for that first opening week.
Because that was.
Or have some community people stream them.
Yeah.
Or give permission for some community people to stream
even if we could have just gone back and watched them as VODs, it would have been super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I would have done it.
Because there were, casters who have casted HGC stuff before, and Heroes of the Dorm stuff that were openly volunteering to cast it with permission, and it just didn't happen. But yeah.
I'm hoping they're taking all this feedback and figuring this out for the 2019 season. We haven't seen any announcements for the 2019 season yet. Hopefully soon we'll see some HGC stuff. There's going to be some spiciness coming up soon because the roster acquisition release is coming up very quickly. There is a mega thread for the as it's become known, roster apocalypse. That is coming up very soon, so we'll have an update on that in the next week or two. There's probably going to be some large shifts. There is. That's just how things work. So that's going to be really interesting to see where everything ends up for HGC starting next year.
Yeah.
And as always, we're going to just hold off until that all gets finalized so we can just cover it as one big piece instead of, digging deep into speculating about all the shifts. Let's just follow that mega thread and see where it goes.
Yeah. The one thing I will say about that, I hope Rich continues to play. I know he's retired once, I hope he continues to play until somebody gets a chance to beat him while he's still playing. I want to beat Korea.
I consider
with
him
Rich
the
on the
best
team.
player in the world.
Yeah.
honestly,
pretty easily.
I want us to beat him.
Yeah, we got some Rich Alarak play during the HGC finals, and it was just beautiful.
It's nuts. The Alarak into Seven-Sided Strike, like those were.
Oh yeah.
They were gorgeous. They were
Where you
gorgeous.
just cannot escape the Seven-Sided Strike because you're silenced after you've been drug in. Like, oh yeah.
So good. But we will talk more about that stuff once we have the incoming news headed into the 2019 season, Phase 1. TBK, what do you got for community content this week?
So this one's pretty cool. This is a another art thing, but it is a Kill Jaden concept. Kill Jaden is it's art for skins, some like little in-game paintovers, our talents, a little description on how he plays. It's very, very unique, very, very interesting, and I really liked it. He's a specialist who can control his armies to put pressure in different lanes, or can grant vision over the enemy team's movement to create strategies against them. And so it talks about Kil'jaeden being like controlling minions and marking a minion and being able to teleport to it, to different stuff on the map. A very global based hero. Very, very cool artwork, kind of an interesting concept. So I wanted to shout that out.
Yeah, the second heroic is pretty nuts. So would be reveal all enemy heroes without them noticing. And then while channeling, Kil'jaeden can select any location on the map and teleport there after 2 seconds cast. I like it. Seems dangerous.
Yeah.
It's
cool
like
concept.
Dahaka plus Illidan. All right, so we have some spicy listener questions.
Yes,
a lot of them directed at Multizord. I think we all knew this was coming as soon as it happened. So let's go ahead and jump into some of those, Multi.
Indeed. So let's start a little bit easier, a little less spicy. Some hero-specific ones. First one is actually from Draven Dresden, who writes, do you feel Orphea was enough for BlizzCon? In the past, we've gotten multiple heroes and or maps along with systems changes. I mean, to address that one, I totally get why they only announced Orphea and not Orphea alongside someone else. Because, like, she was the first true Nexus-born hero, and her kit and art and everything is just so cool that, like, I feel like if we had a BlizzCon where it was Orphea and then also Deathwing, like, we could be in a situation where, you know, Deathwing's kit might be fun, but not as cool. Maybe he's not as original and unique. And in some ways, either Orphea could eclipse her, or the other more likely situation as well, Deathwing or someone else like that could eclipse all of the great work they put into Orphea. So I totally get it. Like, I did have that initial gut reaction, and I think I said that on our Friday recording too, of like how I kind of thought, oh, there's only one hero? I thought this might even be a year that we have 3 again. But I mean, honestly, I've come around on it. If there's going to be one hero that they do at a BlizzCon, to me, this is the one. I know not everyone's excited about the fact that she's just straight from the Nexus, but for those of us who've been playing this game as long as we have and just love Heroes of the Storm for what it is, it's incredible. And she's just super fun. So I'm on board. But what do you guys think about all that? Anything else to add?
Yeah, it's... I completely understand why they did it, and especially after the deep dive and our interview. Like, and this actually brings up some other concerns. So, I mean, they spent over a year, or close to a year, preparing to bring Orphea into the Nexus. Like, that is why, like, they came up with her concept art, and then they started building the comics based off her. So there was a ton of work that went into this to try, because it's a big task. Again, not everyone's happy, but I think a lot of people are really happy with this, and it may not have been the case if they didn't nail Orphea in her introduction as hard as they did. My worry with that now, though, is we had been getting these comics and these lore updates, and they were really cool. And so far, they have been directly tied into the introduction of Orphea into the game. So now that they are going back into existing Blizzard characters, does that mean they're going to slow down on the lore releases because they don't have a reason to anymore? I don't think they will, but considering the cadence for lore stuff wasn't super fast to begin with, and that had kind of been a complaint with people, I hope that's not the case. What do you think, TBK?
We do have another comic coming soon.
Yes, but it's again directly tied to her.
Yep, and it's tied to her.
Orphea,
yeah,
I believe.
Yes. Yep. So that's cool. I do think that we will continue to get lore stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to be new characters. There's a bunch that they can do with lore within the mashup of characters we have. Cool things that they could do, especially along with these realm lords, which they can introduce more of that don't necessarily have to be characters. In fact, they can introduce as many characters as they want that don't necessarily have to be characters that go into the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lore thing, and I think they will continue the lore into next year. I don't know exactly what they'll do. I'm excited to see it though. But the whole vibe I got, especially from talking to people, was pretty much this was a big moment for them. This is their defining thing that now sets them apart as something more than just everybody else's game.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
This is their first original thing. They wanted to make a big to-do. They didn't want to take anything away from her. And so that is why we just got the one hero reveal. And so once the dust settles, I'm positive that we will get at least one more hero before the year's end. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. So I'm okay with how they did it. They really hyped her up, and I think she will live up to what they hyped her up to be. But I can totally understand why they didn't reveal more.
Yeah. I want to reiterate one thing you said real quick, and it's something I mentioned in the interview. Like, and maybe it's not as big of a deal to other people as it is for me, but as someone who loves Heroes of the Storm and have talked to friends that aren't into it or kind of talk down on it as being, just a Blizzard MOBA to, it's not our game. Like, it's a game that Blizzard makes. The fact that we have grown enough and the community's passionate enough and the developers are passionate enough to create something on their own, like, it's still a Blizzard's game and a game for all its fans, but like for Heroes fans, it's our own game now, and it's super cool. And maybe Orphea or something will make it into Hearthstone or another game now, which it's
not impossible.
It's a big deal to me personally that like we've grown that much as a community and as a game and the developers. So
the point they made in the deep dive though was that it's always been our game, and the original maps were all Nexus specific to begin with, and that laid the groundwork for the Raven Lord, which led into all this. So I agree with you for sure. I mean, this is a great like expression of that, but I've always felt that way. Like, I've always loved Heroes of the Storm just as itself, not just an amalgamation of everything else.
No, yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, moving on. Next question. We've got, so this one is also from Draven Dresden, but it ties into a conspiracy I see coming up here. The question is it possible that the Raven Lord and Ashe from Overwatch hooked up and Orphea is their child? She does have a striking resemblance after all. So I actually had not just that, Draven, but just think about it. So we've got Orphea has white hair, Ashe has white hair, the Necromancer from Diablo Immortal has white hair, and the new Jaina statue, except for that little strand of blonde because of the Theramore explosion, has white hair. I think it's a full-on conspiracy, man. I think Blizzard's trying to tell us something, and I don't know what that is, but it's been freaking me out all week.
Hey,
go ahead. I would say that, other than the fact that they showed art of her mother during the deep dive panel.
Indeed,
yes.
And she's going to be in the comic, but that's beside the point.
Did she have red eyes in the deep dive comic? The deep dive panel? Yeah.
Not sure. I'd have to go back and look.
I thought she did because she left. She ran away. Maybe she found a way through one of the Nexus portals and into Overwatch.
And became a cowboy.
And became a
cowgirl. That's maybe.
Yeah,
that's going deep.
Blizzard, if you need anyone to write the story on that, or maybe we'll just do a fanfic. It'll be fine. No, I think you're onto something there. Okay, so this ties into as well Naraki's question. Did they tell everyone what's inside Orphea's coffin? That one, to me, I think they play the joke up on the website even of you don't want to know what's in the box. But, I mean, it's clearly a monster that's actually an expression of Orphea herself, as they understood it in the final deep dive. And it's, of course, a collection of that ancestral magic that she carries around with her. So it's like a relic from her ancestors that she expresses by being slightly dark and evil a little bit, but in a good way. Did you guys pick up on anything else beyond that?
No, it's like Matt said, it's a relic, a family relic that manifests into something depending on who's holding it. So who knows? Like, it's not a sarcophagus or coffin. Who knows what's actually in that? Like, what's causing it?
It's a Swiss roll.
There you go. It's just a Swiss roll.
Yep, just a Swiss roll.
Yeah,
big Texas.
It's kind of like a backpack in case she gets hungry. She pops it
Yeah.
open and boom, there's Swiss rolls.
Okay.
I need one of those because I am hungry now. So your other questions, Naraki, what does her mother look like? That'll be in the comic. There was a little bit in the deep dive. And he asked, could you guys hear the booing from across the hall?
Wonder what announcement that was for.
Yeah, we'll get to that
Destiny.
in just a second, guys. Yeah, probably, honestly. That Destiny
that
guy
was a
making
little
us
rough.
wait. Oh, he had everyone angry at him, I think, right before that opening ceremony. But hey, that's beside the point. And here's a question that kind of ties into... So we have another one from Boreos, who writes, what would you guys love to see with the new changes about Stitches and Sylvanas? I personally can't wait to see the new Stitches gameplay for the Slam. Would love some more CC to it. The slow is good in later levels, but it still needs a oomph. And then this ties in as well to Naraki's question, who is asking, do you think only one hero and 2 reworks is enough for BlizzCon? Regarding the rework specifically here, what do you guys think? Did you get into it before I jumped on the show? If so, I apologize for duplicating content here.
Not really. I mean, they didn't really go into the reworks at
Just
all,
that there was
besides
going to be
mentioning they were
some,
having it. Yeah.
Right.
I wish they had gone a little deeper.
Yeah, me too. Like they mentioned that they're wanting to make Stitch's Slam more interesting because right now it's pretty much just off cooldown damage into now that we have the new roles, making that something into that would fit more into a tank build. They didn't actually necessarily say if they were like going to keep the Slam or maybe come up with something else. So who knows what they're onto with that, but I kind of agree that the Slam was kind of just an ability to spam off cooldown. So I'm all for that. The Sylvanas one I'm really interested in. From what I gathered from it, my guess would be that they make her trait an activatable, because they still like the whole push power of it, but they didn't like that she could just sit up and lane alone and push to core unless someone came to stop her.
Right.
So they didn't say anything specifically, but that makes me think, with her being a ranged assassin now, if they like her trait, making it an activatable so you can still do that slight split push, but then you have reason to come down and join your team for an objective or something else because there's no reason for you to be pushing by yourself now.
The only thing I want out of the Stitches rework is for him to get a new talent called Welcome to the Jam.
Yeah? Any particular reason?
Nope.
Swiss rolls and jam. Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna get that, and you can tweet at me.
Come on and slam.
So, and welcome to the jam. Okay.
Jam. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
There you go.
I knew it the whole time.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Which brings us to the point: as Madan has a basketball skin, Stitches will need a Monstar skin.
Yes,
Ooh, I like it.
The orange one, I think, was the big one.
Yeah.
But regardless, back to Naraki's thing, First reaction was it was a little light on announcements, but at the end, I think it was very digestible. And again, everything they announced seemed really good. So I'm okay with it. The one confusing thing is, and it's not just me, other people heard it too and were asking me about it. I'm pretty sure at the very beginning of the opening ceremonies, when Jay was talking about Heroes of the Storm, he said 2 heroes were going to be announced. And then it was like, people were like, oh, maybe it'll happen Saturday at the deep dive.
Right.
So I'll have to actually go back and watch that. But maybe he was talking about the reworks. But it was weird.
Yeah, I remember you guys going into that deep dive thinking, oh, there might be a hidden character. But I was like, no, they would.
Yeah, I didn't think they would do that. But I also didn't understand why. I could have sworn he said 2 heroes being introduced. So.
Not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure. Okay, so these next series of questions, I'll go ahead and read them all off here and then give my response to you guys. So, I mean, this first one I definitely like the most, written in here, which is, well, no, let's get into one more thing. One more thing before we launch into the Diablo stuff. Zembar writes, is there any positive argument to be made for the announced XP changes, and is the expressed vision for the game compatible with high-level competitive play as it exists today? I know we've gotten into this a little bit.
I think we covered it quite a bit.
It's hard to feel out. Yeah, exactly. So, okay. All right. So Diablo stuff. So, okay, the questions rolling in. So first one from Boreos. You guys should definitely apologize to the master Kevin Multizord and tell him he was right about Diablo Mobile. You tried to ignore him for many weeks, and in the end, it was all for nothing. # phone master race. And to you, Boreos, I say, it's not weeks. I've been harping on this for years. I've been talking D4 mobile only. But okay, so some of the other questions are things like, where is the one? So Naraki, of course, asked, does Multi have a phone? Do you guys have phones? Does anyone here have phones?
I do, just not one I want to play RPG on.
Let me do this. Cajun Canuck says, is Multi actually happy with the Diablo presentation and announcements? There's questions as well about, for instance, with the announcements of Diablo Mobile and Warcraft 3 Remastered, do you think the fans may have been let down in some way? What are your thoughts on the panel that handled the audience at the announcement from Tech Shell? And then Non-Champion asking, did you guys give Multi a death stare after they announced the Diablo Mobile? So, to answer that question, I was actually sitting right around, so I was right by you, Gizmo. We were behind the core guys as well. Yeah. I was actually directly behind John Jagger.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know kind of how he feels about the subject. And he didn't turn around to look at me or anything, but you could see him visibly tense up for sure. So here's the thing, though, guys. All jokes and everything aside, of all these questions, I want to address the one from Cajun Canuck. Is Multi actually happy with the Diablo presentation and announcements? So I think I had a unique experience with Diablo Immortal out of possibly anyone at that event. So I went into it thinking that they might do this, which already puts me in the vast minority, right? And then I also, I went into it having played some mobile games like it, at least in the sense, I've played a lot of Arena of Valor in my time, so I've got a decent feel for the control scheme and how I feel about the touchpad for the movement, as well as aiming the abilities with the right stick and that kind of thing. So I went in with that, and so they announced it at the opening ceremony, and I was still, I was excited because this entire time I've been talking about it, I've not been just joking around, but I'll talk about that in a second. But so I did that, and then right afterwards, I actually stayed after for the What's Next panel on it as well, and sat in the front row just because I happened to be near there anyway. And I liked what they were saying. They were going through what the world's going to be like, where there's some areas that are open world that you can run into other players, some areas that are instanced, and they were kind of walking you through what the world of this game is going to be like, and talking through some of the classes as well. There's a lot of stuff they were leaving out. They didn't really dive deep into gear and that sort of thing, and I think it's because the game's too early on to really build out those types of things. So, okay, so I did that, but then as soon as the Q&A started up after that, I actually left. So I didn't stick around for the questions that have now kind of become famous, such as like leading up to that comment about don't you guys have phones and so many of these other things. So I didn't stick around for a lot of that kind of stuff. Actually, I just went to go demo the game right away because I was honestly excited. Like I got through the opening deal and I was like, all right, well, seems kind of like what I was looking for, what I was hoping for. So let me go try it out. And so I sat down to it and I went through with the wizard initially. And honestly, like, again, because I'd played some of these games before, like Arena of Valor, Mobile Legends, that kind of thing. When I filled out the controls, I was personally relieved because I've got a pretty good sense for using the left control stick, aiming abilities with the right. And as I was standing there playing it, I was like, okay, well, all right, this works. That's fine. Movement's smooth. We've got all this going. Okay, I was actually impressed that they were able to fit so many abilities in the right because some of those other games opt to have like a larger auto attack button and smaller abilities, and thus like Arena of Valor, for instance, only has 3 abilities over there, 2 and then the heroic ultimate, whatever you want to call it. So, I mean, I got through the whole demo and like I could tell that it was early on. It's just in its infancy. It's just killing some skeletons and then this undead knight boss at the end. But like, I don't know, when I got done, my only real complaint was that there wasn't a way to cancel abilities once you start charging them, like we see in some of these other games. So I went up to the front. I did the little thing where you fill out your stuff, like feedback on this little laptop. And I was actually talking to a guy from NetEase as well, and he was asking all these questions about like, okay, so why does the American audience resistant to things like the control schemes of the left stick versus whatever? So we got into a conversation about that. And I did all this before hearing about the explosion of vitriol that was happening in the room next to me, as well as on the internet and everything as well. And I think, honestly, like, it's kind of hard to place because we've actually seen this play out on this show several times. Every time I've brought up, all right, well, Diablo 4, mobile only, like you both have groaned, everyone else is groaning. And I think that this is kind of what we're getting in with the reaction of the base here too, is that like some of us are actually a little bit genuinely excited, but there are a lot of people, at least in this American market or probably elsewhere in the world, except that these games typically do really well in I think China and some other countries too. But yeah, there is this weird deal where like I'm in a position where I'm genuinely excited for it, and I am kind of worried that some of these folks slinging the vitriol around are possibly going to ruin it for me. I hope that they don't cancel this because of how bad the PR blowback was. And about the PR blowback, I will say Blizzard was a little short-sighted on how bad this blowback was going to be. I was disheartened by that fact, the fact that they just didn't seem to see this much pushback coming. And then didn't handle it as well. Like they didn't have many prepared statements, I don't think, for this much coming back at them. So that was concerning. My other main concern too is that, and I forget the name of the game, but someone had tweeted in too that it has a lot of similarities to another NetEase game that's already out there in terms of like control scheme and such. I personally am in the camp that thinks this is just the control scheme that works for these types of games, so I wasn't as worried about that. But it is true. I mean, what we don't want is a reskinned version of that. And frankly, what we don't want is for NetEase to take so much control in the generation of this game and its actual development that we lose that Diablo feel. But honestly, to answer the question, am I still excited for it? Yes, because if they can come out with a game that has a very Diablo 3-ish feel by the end of the day, where I'm genuinely working on new sets and pushing greater rifts and stuff on my phone, I'm all in. So that's my short answer.
Oh, good Lord.
You can go.
Greg.
You can go next.
Okay, I was gonna say I can sum this up in like a few sentences.
Mm-hmm.
And until they make me a phone that has a 3 to 5 day battery, I don't give a crap about mobile games.
They do. It's you plug it into a charger. I don't know.
Yeah, for me personally, like I'm not upset about it. It's just it's not for me. Like I understand.
See, that I get.
I understand the left joystick thing. My hands sweat. As soon as my hands start sweating, that stops working. I have calloused fingers as well, which don't want to work. So like I played the demo. It's a fine game. It will do well. Maybe not in the Western hemisphere, but it will do well. My biggest issue, and not really even an issue, I think Blizzard's biggest misstep is leaving this for the final announcement of opening ceremonies.
Or BlizzCon in general, there could be an argument made.
Yeah. I think
agreed.
they should have done that with Warcraft 3. That was a big thing people were wanting a couple years ago, and I honestly forgot about it and was completely surprised when they announced it at BlizzCon. I think that would have been a great thing for closing ceremonies. But I do feel like the community has handled this horridly. And people are saying, well, if they just would have, this is what they've been working on instead of Diablo 4. No, that's not the case. They're working on multiple projects. Well, then, if they just could have flashed a Diablo 4 logo or something, yeah, you say you would have been happy with that. Then if they did that, you would be really upset that you didn't have something playable on the floor for Diablo 4. Like, they announce things for a reason. Diablo 4 isn't ready yet, and who knows if it's called Diablo 4, but they are working on another project. We will get that when we get that. They said as much in, the post trying to temper our expectations. The one thing I may say that might be controversial is the people who are upset because they spent so much money going to BlizzCon to be let down by this announcement. Don't get a ticket to BlizzCon. If you're buying a ticket to BlizzCon for an announcement, don't go. There's somebody else that'll take that ticket. We go, the announcements are part of the experience, but that's not why people go to BlizzCon.
Right.
So, and we've had such big BlizzCons for the last 4 years with huge announcements. It's not going to happen every year.
Yeah.
And
this was a smaller BlizzCon.
It was a smaller BlizzCon.
Was.
But
honestly, Diablo Immortal plus the Warcraft 3 remaster were the only quote-unquote new things, and the rest was just business as usual across the rest of the games. But they've had years like this in the past, and so...
Yeah.
And again, I mean, that's fine. I want to go and learn what's happening in 8.1, 8.2 of WoW. I want to see the new heroes in all these games and test them out and stuff like that. That is
Watch
BlizzCon
the
to me.
esports.
And esports, yeah. You don't have to have an Overwatch announcement every year.
Yeah,
honestly, though, it's the people.
Yes.
Like, I go to BlizzCon for the people. I don't go to BlizzCon for the announcements, and that's the biggest thing for me, and that's the biggest thing we have to keep in mind too, and not to, because we don't want to beat a dead horse on Diablo all night, but you got to remember that all the game devs are people too. A lot of them have been working hard on these things. Not everything is going to be for everyone. And so it's completely okay to not like something. In fact, you are more than welcome to not like something, but you should never attack somebody over something you don't.
Yeah, you can voice your opinion that you don't like something, but the way we as a community have been acting is ridiculous. And then
voice your opinion, and then also voice it by not purchasing anything in this game if it's free to play and has in-game purchases. Don't do them. Don't download it. You'll hurt their numbers and whatever. But let me, because I really do want to play this.
I think you're fine. I don't think they're going to cancel anything.
No, it's going to make way too much money.
And then the last thing about them not doing a Diablo 4 thing, the last thing I want them to do... Oh, my dog is really loud. What they did with Diablo 3, I actually just learned about from going through the BlizzCon book they give us. They announced Diablo 3 stuff for 3 consecutive BlizzCons before that game came out. That's not what I want them to do for Diablo 4.
Oh, yeah, no. Mm-mm.
So, for it to be drawn out like that. So, but yeah, Diablo Immortal, going to be a good game, just not for me. And that's how it's going to be for some people. So, you can play it, you cannot play it, it's good. Because you know why? Blizzard's awesome. They're going to keep making awesome games. And Heroes of the Storm's awesome. So you should just be playing that anyways.
It's true.
Any last stuff before we skadoodle?
I guess I could rub it in real quick that I called it.
You did call it.
I mean, we knew it was going to happen. We just
I mean, I
hated that you brought it up every time.
You called
years
that
ago.
as a podcast. We kind of nailed predictions.
Actually,
It's true.
For this
We really
for
did.
this
hate to
convention.
pat
were
ourselves
good
on
this
the
year.
back, but
Yeah. Who knows?
I even called the Hearthstone expansion before. I
did?
mean, not exactly, but the leak hadn't happened yet. For the record,
Yeah.
it did eventually leak out on a site that it was called Rastacon's Rumble, but I didn't know that when we went through all that stuff.
All right, we're gonna get out of here. Before we leave, though, Multi, why don't you go ahead and tell people where we can be reached?
Oh, you can find us a number of different ways. You can find us on, actually, Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, all at Lords of the Storm, for sure. Hit us up there, especially on our Patreon. If anyone wants to give even the smallest amount, it's a huge help, but no pressure either way, totally. We're going to keep doing this thing regardless. Twitch, though, has changed a bit, so we're now on twitch.tv/HeroesHearth, live Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Central. So same slot, same space, just a slightly different channel, and we thank you guys for having us on over there. But yeah, it's still several ways to find us otherwise. You can find us in-game by typing /join space LOTS, or you can join either our or the HeroesHearth Discord. That's bit.ly/lots Discord for us, though. But you can email us with feedback or questions at lordsofthestorm@outlook.com. And the other thing you can really do to help out the show is leave a review. I'll try to pop on and see if we got any new ones here while you guys finish up. But again, iTunes is the main one for sure. But any sort of review that you want to leave, give some feedback. Honestly, positive feedback even has like actual quantitative results that push us up the list toward being higher on iTunes and that sort of thing too. So it's more than just like giving us your feedback. It's genuinely helping out the show. So.
Yeah. You can find us individually, myself on Twitter and Twitch at Gizmozord, as well as occasionally on Convert to Raid Presents the BattleNet News with Pat Crane and the crew talking about World of Warcraft and all things Blizzard. Yeah, so check that out. Multi, where can you be reached?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Multizord, and also on another show called Hearth Casual, which is a podcast about Hearthstone. And I actually also had an interview with Peter Whalen and Kat Morgan from the Hearthstone team. If you don't know Peter Whalen, he was formerly a chicken for some time here. So we addressed that right out the gate. I asked the hard questions. So that is actually up. So we've got on the feed now, we've got that interview followed by the World of Podcasts Hearthstone deal that I was a part of as well. So I thank you guys again at Con Before the Storm World Podcast for putting us on and having me there too. So yeah, that's all up, and we are also then going to still record an episode this week. So it's like,
yeah.
If you are ever feeling like you don't have enough Hearth Casual, this is the week. That's all I'm saying.
Boom. TBK, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter at TBKZord, and of course over on HeroesHearth, you can check out my blog posts, interviews, map concepts, all the like. I'm working on another map concept now. I don't know exactly when it'll be out. These take quite a while. But I do have a recent article out about the reporting and commendation system in-game, which we didn't actually hear a whole lot about. So yay for it still being relevant.
Yeah.
And not getting completely destroyed. So check that out.
Yep. Quick note, next week we will be back for the most part to our regular type shows. So if you are just joining us the last 2 weeks with HeroesHearth and things been a little weird, you're wondering what's going on, well, we're going to be back to, deep into the hero stuff next week. I want to give a special thanks to, first and foremost, the Heroes community team and the Heroes team in general for just being incredible. If you guys haven't seen our sweet hoodies that they gifted to us, they're sweet. They're awesome. So thank you very much. Also, a special thanks to our patron producer, HeroesHearth, for helping support the show. And HeroesHearth Entertainment for letting us close out yet another night of HeroesHearth Entertainment Wednesdays. Until next time, guys, we will see you next Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Central, twitch.tv/HeroesHearth. Play some Orphea. Yeah, let's just do it. We'll see you then. Have a good one.
Enough. I shall do no more.